I never imagined grabbing the wrong suitcase would lead me to a billionaire haunted by my scent. I still feel the shiver down my spine, the panic blooming in my chest as I stood at the baggage claim, eyes darting between the familiar and the foreign. The airport was alive with noise, laughter, announcements, the steady rhythm of suitcase wheels on polished floors. But in that moment, silence fell around me. I grabbed what I thought was my suitcase. Black leather, well-worn, the kind folks go for when they're too busy to care. The rush of warm air hit me, a whisper of perfume taunting my senses. It wasn't mine. I had only a moment to rethink before I was swept away in the current of bodies, too lost in my own chaos to notice. That old familiar scent wrapped around me, a delicate mix of cedar and electricity that made my heart race. There was something about it. Something called to me. Hours later, I found myself in a dim hotel room, the suitcase heavy in my trembling hands. I couldn't shake the feeling that this suitcase held secrets, layers of lives stitched between the seams, each zipper a promise of mystery awaiting discovery. Curiosity mingled with dread as I opened it. The smell hit me again, stronger than before. It consumed me, wrapping me in a shadowy embrace, leaving me breathless. Inside, tailored suits hung like apparitions, crisp white shirts that felt too pristine for this ordinary world. And then, there it was, a bottle of cologne, the same scent that had haunted me since the airport. I picked it up, letting the glass glimmer reflect the flickering light, as if to signal me. This wasn't just any billionaire's suitcase, it was as if it belonged to a ghost. This man whose essence surrounded me felt like he was just out of reach, someone whose past haunted every corner of the fabric. Suddenly, the reality of my reckless choice crashed down on me. What did I just take? Whose life was entangled in this bizarre twist? An urge to return it rippled through me, but fear held me hostage. In my gut, I felt the weight of his absence like a void drenching the air. My chest tightened. What if he came looking for it? What if he came for me? As images of a handsome, dark-haired man with piercing blue eyes flickered through my mind, I realized I was enmeshed in something much deeper than I ever intended. The thrill of adventure tainted by a creeping dread. Why did I feel drawn to him already, heart pounding like a drum at the thought of his gaze? But the question loomed larger. Would he be a savior or a hunter? I took a deep breath, feeling the knot of uncertainty coil tighter. The world outside faded to a whisper as I felt a shiver crawl along my spine. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The following days passed with a slow crawl, an achingly delicate balance between anticipation and dread. Each morning, I woke with the bruising pulse of anxiety in my chest, glancing at the black leather suitcase that had turned my world upside down. The polished exterior gleamed under the muted hotel room light, whispering secrets I longed but feared to uncover. That I found myself avoiding the scent of the cologne, resisting the temptation to spray a bit on my wrist. It was absurd, but even the thought left me disoriented. Each time I caught a fleeting whiff, an unsettling mix of thrill and vulnerability washed over me. I couldn't shake the feeling that the owner of this suitcase, this phantom billionaire, was watching me, waiting for me to tread into his realm. To ground myself, I wandered the streets of the city, taking detours that brought me closer to the heartbeat of life. I sought solace in crowded cafes filled with the rich aroma of coffee and soft chatter that felt nourishing. One day, an elderly woman at a nearby table struck up a conversation, her smile warm and full of wisdom. She reminded me of the importance of living in the moment, sweetening my tea with her laughter. We collect stories like trinkets, she said, and you, dear, are on the brink of a curious tale. Her words left a spark of hope suspended in the air, but as I walked back to the hotel, the heaviness seeped back in. I had made a choice that tied me to a complete stranger, a man whose life I knew nothing about. My insides churned with uncertainty, a pulsating need to resolve the mystery gnawing at my mind. the weight of the suitcase became a constant reminder of my mistakes, but that night, an unexpected act of kindness shifted my perspective. The hotel staff had organized a special gathering in the lobby, a local artist showcasing his work, crafting a community out of paint and laughter. I tentatively joined the crowd, swept away in the colors and fevered excitement. In the dim light, I allowed myself to escape, forgetting about the suitcase, the owner, even the desperate longing crafting tendrils around my heart. Lost in conversation with a fellow attendee, I almost missed the moment the distinct scent of cedar and electricity invaded my senses. Panic surged through me as I turned slowly, the room swirling into a whirlpool of vibrant colors, blurring into a vision that made my breath hitch. There he was, the man whose essence filled the air around me. His silhouette was commanding, and those piercing blue eyes, the very eyes I'd conjured in daydreams filled with both fear and longing, fixed directly upon me, caught in the electric bond, time stretched, stifling the clamorous world around us. His gaze held an unyielding intensity, as if he could see straight through the layers I had draped over myself. In that instant, my heart thundered, caught between the thrilling potential of connection and the sinking dread of collision, yet as he approached, something shifted. I saw a flicker of vulnerability in his eyes, a shadow perhaps of loneliness, a familiar soul seeking solace in the crowd, much like me. The tension between us pulsed like a living thing, both frightening and intoxicating. Just as he reached out, the moment shattered. A sleek figure appeared beside him, laughter spilling from her lips as she leaned into his side, arching a perfect eyebrow in my direction. "Oh, Julian, did you find your suitcase?" she teased, eyes glinting with mischief. I froze, heart sinking deeper than I thought possible. Julian. His name hung in the air like an uninvited guest, a reminder of the twisted path I had stumbled down. The warmth of connection dimmed into a chilly reality. But shadows whispered promises of adventure, and a hesitant part of me still clung to hope that he stepped back slightly, the warmth fleeing between us, conflict brewing behind his gaze. I did, he said slowly, searching my eyes and possibly sensing the fear that lay festering in my gut. The world spun around us, but all I could focus on was the pull of his essence and the distance between us growing wider. "With every precious second, shall we find a moment to talk?" His voice was low, laced with an urgency that sent my heart racing. The woman beside him looked surprised, perhaps even threatened, by the sudden shift, but before I could answer, the clatter of a phone ringing, breaking the moment, drowned whatever chance remained for clarity. With regret mingling in his eyes, he stepped away to answer, leaving me breathless on the edge of something I couldn't grasp. As he turned his back to me, the fleeting moment dissolved into the background noise of fading laughter, the crowd pulling him away while I stood rooted, secrets weighing heavily like chains on my heart. Suddenly, my own phone buzzed violently in my pocket. I fished it out, my eyes darting back to Julian. His silhouette bobbed in the distance, closely guarded by the woman from before. The clarity of my screen revealed a message that chilled me to my Korean unknown number blinking at me with urgency. "Return what's not yours or face the consequences." My heart plummeted, a gaping chasm opening inside me. What had I truly stepped into, and what lay ahead? As uncertainty and fear wrapped me in a suffocating embrace, a new wave of realization struck. There was no escape now. The following day unfolded draped in a heavy silence, the weight of the unknown pressing down upon me. The city hummed with an energy that felt simultaneously foreign and familiar, a cruel reminder of how precariously I balanced on the edge of a life gone awry. Each location I visited was painted with the soft whispers of possibility, the air thick with choices that tantalized yet terrified me. I found myself in a small park, the early autumn air crisp and invigorating as leaves rustled gently overhead. I wandered along the gravel path, lost in thought, replaying every moment from the night before. Julian's name echoed, taunting the kernels of hope struggling to grow amidst doubt and dread. What was it about this stranger who had claimed such swift dominion over my thoughts? As I sank onto a bench, my phone buzzed again, a sharp reminder of the darkness lurking just beneath the surface. I hesitated, staring at the screen, my heart racing with trepidation. I ignored the message, hoping to banish that foreboding warning from my mind. But a sudden breeze swirled around me, urging me to face it. That I couldn't afford to be reckless, I reminded myself as I opened the message, which chilled me to the bone. There are those who seek what you possess. Protect yourself. They are closer than you think. Panic tightened its grip once more, and I shoved the phone deep into my pocket, willing the fear to subside. In that very moment of desperation, an unexpected sound broke through the laughter of children playing nearby. Their joy was infectious and disarming, cutting through my shroud of anxiety like sunlight through storm clouds. I watched them chase each other, innocent and free, and I found myself smiling despite the chaos that clanged around me, and then, like a spark ignited by a gust of wind, my mind returned to the only source of warmth amidst uncertainty: Julian. I replayed the flicker of vulnerability I had seen in his eyes, a feeling all too familiar to me. Here was a man burdened by something, just as I was. It was a thread of connection, delicate yet powerful, reaching across the unknown. That evening, as night cast shadows over the city, I decided to seek him out. The lure of conversation, the possibility of understanding something more profound than our circumstances pulled me back to the gallery where we first crossed paths. It was a gamble, a leap of faith in a world that felt increasingly hostile, but surrounded by the colored canvases and inquisitive faces, I dared to hope. As I entered, the buzz of conversation whipped around me, but I sought only one presence. He was there, Julian, engrossed in discussion with a group of artists. His laughter rang like a bell, warming the chill that had lodged itself deep in my bones. But as soon as I approached, the laughter faded, replaced by a stolen glance that twinkled with something far more than mere recognition. "Mind if I borrow him for a moment?" I asked the group, my voice steady but my heart fluttering with anticipation. They shared bemused glances before stepping aside, and Julian, unsure but intrigued, made his way toward me. "Hey," he greeted softly, his voice wrapping around me like a comforting lullaby, "can we talk?" The request came out more fervently than I intended, but I needed to break the distance that our circumstances had created. He nodded, the sincerity in his gaze stirring something deep within me, and we moved away from the crowd, the world around us softening into the background. Even in the dim light, I could see the shadows beneath his smile, traces of secrets untold. "I got your message yesterday," I blurted out, nerves prickling across my skin. It sounded terrifying. Julian's brow furrowed, a flash of concern cutting through his casual demeanor. "What message?" My breath caught in my throat. "The one saying I should return what's not mine, or face the consequences." His expression shifted as if a storm swept through his thoughts. "You didn't respond to it, did you?" The worry in his voice carved a deeper path into my heart. "No." "Good," he murmured, scanning the room as if unseen specters watched us. The lightness from earlier slipped away, burdened by something darker. There are people who don't take kindly to their belongings being misplaced. "You're in danger," the word struck me, reverberating through my chest like a loud echo. "Julian, I'll listen." He stepped closer, the magnetic pull between us both familiar and foreign. "You didn't count on this." "Neither did I. But we may not have much time, and I need you to trust me." I felt raw and exposed under his gaze. A sense of urgency clenched around us like puzzle pieces trying to snap into place, yet too mismatched to fit. Just as I opened my mouth to respond, I noticed the blonde woman from before, the one who had teased him about the suitcase, standing on the edge of the gallery, fevered whispers exchanging between her and two imposing figures. A pang of fear shot straight through me as I met Julian's gaze, panic evident in his wide eyes. "You need to go," he urged urgently, but something within me rebelled, refusing to take another step backward. Before I could gather my bearings, the woman cut through the crowd, her heels clicking against the polished floor in approaching storm. "Julian," she called, a dangerous light in her eyes. Hand trembling, my heart raced furiously as uncertainty churned inside me, spilling over into moments I couldn't comprehend. Julian's profile hardened. He stepped in front of me, a protective barrier that made my pulse stutter. The world spun around us like a predator poised to strike, and then, as if time had stilled, Julian spoke two words that sent a chill down my spine. "Do you trust me?" The question clung to the air like a fragile promise, and I faced the woman's penetrating gaze, knowing that whatever came next could change everything. As I stood there, heart racing, the weight of Julian's question hung heavy between us. Around us, the gallery had transformed from a vibrant oasis of art and life into a tense arena, where shadows danced with uncertainty. The woman approached, her eyes glinting with determination, making it hard to discern whether they belonged to a friend or foe. "I see you found a friend," she said, her voice smooth but edged with something sharp. Julian's posture stiffened, his protective stance a silent acknowledgement that whatever she had to say, it wasn't good. This isn't about you, Mia. Stay out of it. Her laughter was like glass breaking, beautiful yet deadly. Oh, but this is very much about you, darling. You'll want to listen. She turned her gaze to me, and though her smile was warm, the malice lingered beneath. Everyone is searching for something valuable, and sometimes that search leads to the most unexpected places. A flicker of confusion crossed my thoughts. Was she implying I was valuable, more chillingly, that I was the thing to be lost? I glanced at Julian, who was now white-knuckled, the threat building in the air palpable enough to slice through the tension. Leave her out of this, Julian insisted, stepping forward, not allowing the distance between us to grow. I felt rooted in place, uncertain if I should shrink away or stand resolute. You've interfered, Julian. That was your first mistake, the woman continued, her demeanor impossible to read. Fighting against what is inevitable only makes the end more painful. You know that. Not if I can help it. His voice carried a determination that belied the storm brewing beneath his calm facade. And I won't let you drag her into your mess. Whatever you've conjured up, it stops here. I flinched at his words, a mix of admiration and trepidation swirling within me. The conflict played out between them like a game of chess where every pawn was at risk. I could feel their history threaded tightly through the fabric of their words, secrets woven into their tenacity. Sweetheart, I'm not the enemy here. But neither is Julian, she said, her tone shifting slightly as she looked back at me. And you? You've stumbled into something that could cost you everything. What do you mean? My voice came out sharper than I intended, bolstered by a budding courage I hadn't known I possessed. She paused, her gaze flickering to Julian before locking back onto mine. Only what you value the most. The chase grows more dangerous as time progresses. Tread carefully. As if drawn by an invisible thread, Julian reached for my hand, his grip grounding me amidst the swirling chaos and doubts. Listen to me. We need to go. Now. I opened my mouth to protest, desperate to understand. But the world around me swirled in urgency as the two men she had arrived with began to circle toward us, their expressions grim. Mia, Julian's voice was low, fierce, trust me. We have to move. Please. My heart flared with the intensity of his plea, igniting something deep inside that made me resist the instinct to flee, an instinct that screamed for safety, yet also reeked of defeat. But beneath the fear, I felt the flicker of camaraderie igniting, the connection we shared pulling me close. Okay, I whispered, forcing myself to focus on the reality ahead. I trust you. With that, he turned his body, creating a barrier as we stepped deeper into the gallery, making our way through the shifting sea of people who remained blissfully unaware of the storm brewing behind the scenes. But we didn't make it far. As we reached the exit, a sudden commotion erupted, and my heart sank as I caught appearance of a familiar face. It was the woman from the park, the one with her warning. She stood at the entrance, genuine fear written across her features, glancing between us and the men who had cornered us. You have to move. Now, she urged, grabbing my arm just as Julian spun to confront her. Why are you helping her? Julian's voice rose, filled with incredulity. Because, she shouted, a flicker of vulnerability shining through the panic lacing her tone, they want the suitcase, and if they can't have it, she hesitated, taking a breath that shook her body. They'll take you both instead. Before I could process her words, the storm hit. One of the men lunged forward, shoulders broad and fierce, and in an instant, chaos claimed the gallery. People screamed, scattering, panic threading through the crowd like wildfire. Julian yanked me back, shielding me once more, but I could see the dozen faces turning toward our direction, the noise drowning us in a torrent of confusion. With a surge of adrenaline, I pulled away from his hold. We can't just stand here. I shouted over the chaos, reaching for the pressing weight of urgency ready to burst from my chest. What do I do? What do we do? Run. Julian's voice cut through the chaos, urgency lacing each word. And just like that, we were propelled into the mass of panic. As I raced alongside him through the chaotic throng, I couldn't shake the sensation that a greater game was unfolding, a web of deceit tightening around us and shifting into something treacherous. As the world descended into chaos and uncertainty, one thought crystallized in my mind: my life had just been irrevocably altered. Whatever I had stumbled into wasn't going to be easily escaped. The realization washed over me as we barreled toward an unknown future, a desperate hope mingled with a warning that echoed at the back of my mind. I was not the only one searching for something valuable, and the cost could very well include my life. The cacophony of terrified voices swirled around us like a tempest, each shout another reminder of the world collapsing in on itself. Adrenaline surged through my veins, pushing me forward into the chaos. I was running, yet every ounce of me felt frozen, caught in a moment that blurred the lines between panic and clarity. Julian's grip tightened around my wrist as we navigated through the throng, his body leading me to safety but his expression haunted by the weight of something unsaid. I stole a glance at him, his jaw clenched, eyes darting about with quick, analytical precision, as if scanning for threats. "What are they after?" I yelled, straining to be heard over the din. "The suitcase," he replied, swallowing hard. "And if they can't have that, they'll settle for us. They think we know where it is." With each desperate step, the reality of our situation bore down on me. The suitcase was merely a symbol of a more profound conflict that had been ignited the moment I unwittingly pulled it from obscurity. A sense of dread settled deep in my chest, knowing that this was no ordinary chase. The showdown would not simply end with our escape. This was a battle built on unseen stakes. As we burst through a side exit into an alleyway, I caught my breath, the cool air hitting me like a slap. Julian urged me to keep moving, his focus sharp. "We need to find a place to hide," he said, scanning the surroundings with vigilant intensity. The dimly lit alley branched into the shadows, beckoning us toward unknown refuge. "Why didn't you tell me sooner?" I gasped, frustration mingling with fear. I could have been better prepared. I could have prepared. For what? To confront the people who want to take your life? You can't prepare for this. His voice rose, each word punctuated with urgency, then softened as I saw a flicker of regret in his eyes. "I didn't want to drag you into my chaos. I was trying to protect you." That brought a surprising calm to my panic-fueled heart. "Protect me?" I echoed, my voice softer now, almost incredulous. "You think letting me walk into danger alone was protection?" The vulnerability of my words cracked through the heavy air between us. I'd stepped into this whirlwind, yes, but it was a choice I had made, and I was willing to face whatever consequences lay ahead. The corner of his mouth twitched, a ghost of a smile in a moment that was too dark for lightness. "You're not a victim in this. You've got your own strength." Before I could respond, a raucous noise erupted from the alley's mouth. 3 figures emerged, shadows dancing across their faces, their eyes filled with intent. It was the men from the gallery. In an instant, Julian's protective demeanor returned, magnetizing me into his orbit as he moved to shield me from view. "Stay close," he whispered, the urgency returning with full force. A spark of defiance ignited within me as I pressed against him. "No. We can't hide. We need to do something." The fear threatened to consume me, and I could feel the heat rising within, mixing with the adrenaline coursing through my veins. "Then what?" "There are 3 of them. We have to outsmart them," a siren echoed in the distance, cutting through the murk, and my eyes widened as inspiration struck. "The fire escape. It leads to the roof." We could. Without waiting for him to reply, I turned sharply and sprinted toward the set of iron stairs. Julian cursed softly but followed, his footsteps pounding behind mine as we reached the fire escape. We climbed quickly, my heart racing with each step upward, the shouts below receding but never entirely silencing the urgency. "Up here," I panted, reaching the rooftop where the gray sky spread wide above us, offering a temporary haven from the chaos below. We paused for a moment, catching our breath while the world quieted beneath us. I could hear my heartbeat thrumming loudly in my ears, settling into a rhythm alongside Julian's labored breaths. Drawing in a shaky breath, I turned to him. "What do we do now? We can't just wait for them to come up here." In that moment, I felt both exhilaration and fear gripping knowledge. That we were fighting not just for survival but also against an unseen adversary tugging at the strings surrounding us. Julian's brow furrowed as determination settled over his features. Let's scout the edge, see if there's a way down. I won't let them corner us. He moved with purpose, and I followed, a flicker of hope igniting in the pit of my stomach as I realized he had a plan. As we reached the far side of the building, I caught sight of the street below, a bustling mass of people completely oblivious to the danger that had unfolded just moments before. The heat of the sun warmed my skin, a deceptive assurance that life continued on elsewhere, while I felt suspended in a liminal state between fear and courage. Suddenly, Julian tensed, and I turned to see his expression shifting, sensing something far off, a shadow lurking in the corners of my own mind. Mia, we need to. Before he could finish, a deafening crack echoed across the rooftop, shattering our moment of reprieve. I turned, confusion flooding my senses as I witnessed something that stole the breath from my lungs. An ominous figure slowly emerging from the shadows, silhouetted against the sunlight. Julian, I barely managed, horror creeping into my voice. Who is that? A collective gasp echoed in my mind, freezing me in place as recognition dawned upon Julian's face. It wasn't just a figure, it was someone we thought we were safe from, someone connected to everything unraveling around us. Why are you here? He demanded, voice trembling as an uncertain storm brewed within him. As the figure stepped closer, my heart began to race. I wished I had never asked the question because the answer threatened to unravel everything I believed, bringing with it a revelation that shook the very foundations of who I thought Julian was. The weight of impending truth loomed over us like a dark cloud, a promise of chaos that whispered we were far from done. The figure drew nearer, and with each precise step, Julian's visage morphed from surprise to a reticent wariness. I tried to grasp the reality before me, but my mind spiraled through a maze of confusion. Tiny threads of memory wove themselves through my thoughts, barely illuminating the shadow cast upon us. Who could it be? And why did they seem both familiar and terrifying at the same time? Mia, he murmured, his voice barely a whisper, as if uttering my name could suspend time. Get back, panic surged within me, forcing my heart to race. I'm not leaving you, I said, though I could feel the tightening of my throat, the fear creeping up from my stomach. It felt wrong to move away. I was more whole when I stood beside him. The figure presented itself at last, stepping into the light with an air of unsettling confidence. My mouth went dry as I recognized the chiseled features and piercing gaze. Darian, the enigmatic billionaire who had once glided through my life like a wisp of smoke, leaving behind curiosity and phantom promises. The moment felt surreal, caught between two worlds that had never been meant to collide. Julian, Darian spoke, tone layered with dark amusement. I didn't expect you to play such a desperate hand. Anger sparked in my chest, convoluted by the complexities of the situation. How could he be here, now? What do you want? I blurted, not wanting to show weakness, bridging the gap in my faith with something bold, simple. Darian replied, fixing his gaze on me, captivating yet predatory. I want what's mine. Yours? Julian interrupted, voice tinged with disbelief. You have no claim over her. Darian's lips twisted into a smirk, a chilling reminder of our earlier encounters. Not her, Julian. The suitcase. You can't keep running from this. You know the weight it carries. The very air around us thickened, a silence falling effortlessly, amplifying the weight of those words. It's bigger than just us, I whispered, catching on to the nuances in Darian's phrasing. What lay in that suitcase was nothing if not a catalyst for conflict, something that could ignite powers beyond our comprehension. That I don't have the time for riddles, Darian. Julian shot back, his stance protective but trembling ever so slightly. I could feel the tension curling round us like a vine, squeezing the air from my lungs. Do you think threatening us will gain your treasure? It's not a threat, it's a promise, Darian warned, attitude unwavering. You're tied to something much deeper, Mia. You may not understand yet, but I assure you, I will reclaim the suitcase. You were the fool to grab the wrong one. An icy grip stole up my spine, penetrating my skin and wrapping around my heart. What do you know about me? About it? I pressed, needing to understand the chase that had ensnared us, unraveling my world piece by piece. Enough to know that you're standing on the precipice of a maelstrom, he replied, shifting back into the faint embrace of shadow. Your involvement has only begun to unravel a much larger picture. A chill skated across my skin as the horizon of possibility expanded before me. The fear that had been a constant companion morphed into an electric anticipation. How deep did this rabbit hole seem to run? Well, expose you, Darian. Whatever lies you spin, we will reveal them to the world, Julian declared, audacity wrapped in desperation. But I sensed something deeper lurking within Julian's resolve. The primal instinct to protect me battled against a swirling uncertainty one I shared. With a flick of his wrist, Darian beckoned to the darkness behind him, figures gradually materializing like a scenic blight upon our fragile moment. It won't come to that, Julian. You see, he lowered his voice, drawing closer, making sure you both are well taken care of as this unfolds. Another crack of thunder rumbled in the distance, a celestial punctuation mark to his loathsome words, tension humming thick in the air. And in that moment, I felt the urgent call of fate thrusting its weight upon us, leaving us with no direction but forward. What if we refuse? I asked, my voice steadier. Then I felt. Without skipping a beat, Darian's lips curled into a smile that held no warmth. Then you'll be pioneers of your own demise. Just as chaos began to surmount, my instinct drove me back to Julian's side. The world had shifted again, and I felt his pulse racing beneath my palm, the uncertainty radiating between us. Trust was now a fragile thread woven into our lives, and yet amidst the tumult, I found myself clinging to Ida as bewildering as the path ahead became. The gang of figures he commanded fell closer, the night peering around the corner in anticipation of what might happen next. I caught the brief locked gaze between Julian and me. There we were, a fragile alliance battling against forces that sought to tear us apart. Ready? He whispered urgently, searching my eyes for strength. I nodded, my heart hammering defiantly. But before we could react, an unexpected jingle broke through the ensuing frenzy. A phone from Julian's pocket, vibrating with an urgency that pulled us further into the unfolding chaos. It wasn't just a call, it was the sound of a destiny yet to be revealed, echoing across the rooftop as the world slipped out from beneath us. Answer it, Julian. It could be someone who can help. My voice pierced through the tumult, filled with hope and desperation. He hesitated, glancing down at the screen, then looked back at me, determination framing his features as he raised it, the stakes soaring higher than ever. Who was on the other end? Would they be our salvation or the catalyst for further turmoil? The horizon ahead stretched wide before us, a pathway laden with uncertainty and the shadows of secrets waiting to be unearthed. The call felt like a gaping chasm, my heart pounding in sync with the vibration of Julian's phone. As he lifted it to his ear, I could practically hear the weight of each breath he drew, one unsteady mixture of hope and dread. The faces encroaching upon us blurred into the background, a swirling haze as I focused entirely on this pivotal moment. Hello? Julian's voice broke through the tense silence, barely piercing the thick atmosphere that enveloped us. Every syllable seemed to stretch into infinity as time warped, refusing to hurry along despite the stakes at hand. I leaned closer, straining to hear the muffled reply from the caller, the expressions on Julian's face rotating like a kaleidoscope of emotions. What do you mean? He breathed, eyes narrowing, revealing glimmers of uncertainty. I caught myself holding my breath, wrapping my fingers tighter around his arm. Whatever the caller had said had shifted something in him, eyes darting to assess the imminent threat lurking at the edges of our zone. How do you know about the suitcase? Julian shot back, intensity sparking in his tone. The hands approaching from the darkness stiffened momentarily, the air thick with the anticipation of something imminent that I could feel my pulse pounding in my ears as I registered the tension in him. Who was this person? Were they friend or foe? The part of me that yearned for resolution wrestled with the part of me that recognized the danger pulsating in each breath we took. Mia, Julian's voice broke slightly as he gestured for me to listen closely. They know about us. The words hung suspended, echoing in my mind like a weight that I feared would crush our fragile alliance. As he turned his back to the encroaching figures, my eyes darted toward them. Darian's expression had shifted, a glimmer of intrigue lighting up his features. He seemed to relish the unfolding drama, as though this was all part of a game he had anticipated. It struck me then, like shards of glass across my skin, that we were mere pawns in a much larger struggle. They're saying we're running out of time, Julian continued, voice a blend of urgency and disbelief. And that they know where you are supposed to go next. Next. My question emerged in a whisper, the weight of his words settling like a stone in my stomach. What layers of impact and consequence were layered within that single word? "Meet me at the old pier," Julian said into the phone, his voice tightening as if bracing against the storm gathering around us. "Tonight." "Well, figure this out." Before the caller could respond, Julian ended the call, his brow furrowed in a mix of confusion and wrestling fear. "They want to help us, I think, but there's something about their tone it felt like a trap." I interjected, my stomach twisting in answer to the unspoken truth. The figures advancing on us seemed more than mere henchmen, they were wolves on the hunt, shadows weaving themselves into our fate. "Exactly," he replied, gripping my hand tighter. "But we don't have a choice. If they know where we need to go next, we can at least gather more information before making any monumental decisions." As I searched Julian's face, I could see the mixture of resolve and despair wrestling within him, shoulders setting rigidly against the tide of uncertainty. And just like that, a wave of boldness surged within me. "Then let's go. Well, face whatever comes together." A flicker of gratitude passed through his eyes before the shadows caught up to us once more. But as we turned to leave, I caught a glimpse of Darian's penetrating gaze. "This isn't over, Julian," he directed, his words like poisoned daggers, fueled by the chaos swirling around us. "You'll regret turning your back on everything that was meant to be." The statement hung heavily in the air, grasping for understanding, but fear tightened its grip on my heart. What did he know that we didn't? Why did it feel like we were racing against an unseen clock, the gears of fate grinding slowly yet resolutely? With a firm grip on Julian's hand, we began moving in the opposite direction, ready to flee the shadows, but the intertwining currents of our decision pulled us deeper. The night pulsed with a heartbeat of danger, each step we took resonating with the echoes of consequences that shadowed our every choice. As we neared the edge of the rooftop, another chilling sound sliced through the tension like a distant scream, echoing across the cityscape into our very souls. The clarity of the moment sharpened, revealing an unsettling truth that had woven itself around us. "Julian, we have to get out of here. Now," I urged, adrenaline coursing through my veins. The night ahead felt heavier than before, layered with fears and unknowns. We reached the stairs, but that scream hung upon me like a shroud. The haunting memory of a world teetering beyond the edge where we now found ourselves, and yet, as I glanced back one last time at the figures that pursued us, I caught a fleeting glimpse of a woman stepping from Darian's side, sorrow woven intricately into the features of her face. Familiarity sparked like fire in my mind, tinged with a haziness I couldn't ignore. I froze mid-step, heart pounding in disbelief. A thread from the past had frayed loose, revealing connections I couldn't yet comprehend, threads stronger than the fabric of our present. "Julian," I gasped, mind racing as realizations collided. But before I could finish, the unexpected vibrations of Julian's phone pulsed again, shuddering with an urgency that demanded immediate attention. Whatever truth awaited us, it was about to unravel in ways I couldn't begin to predict. The air around us shifted, thickening with unspoken words and echoing uncertainty. Julian's fingers brushed the screen of his phone, hesitating as if he feared the truths it might reveal. My heart raced, a counterpoint to the heavy silence that enveloped us, a dreadful anticipation brewing in the chasm left by my unfinished thought. The image of the woman lingered in my mind, a spectral remnant against the dark backdrop of our flight. Who was that woman? I pressed, urgency infusing my words. Julian's gaze flickered to mine, the dancing emotions in his eyes dimming under the weight of a newfound dread. I don't know, Mia. But something tells me we cannot ignore her," he replied, a tremor edging into his voice. His grip tightened around my hand, like an anchor against the storm. As fear coiled tighter around us, Julian's phone rang again, breaking the fragile pause. We exchanged wary glances, and he finally answered, his voice steadied by some invisible thread of resolve. Yes, a voice, smooth yet tinged with an unsettling familiarity, crackled through the line. "Julian? You need to listen closely. I don't have much time, and neither do you." I held my breath, feeling the rapid heartbeat of my fear synchronize with Julian's rising panic. I couldn't make out all of the words, but the urgency washed over me like icy water, chilling my spine. Each phrase felt like a warning bell tolling in the dark. They're coming for both of you. You must get to the pier before midnight, or all will be lost. The voice faded into the ether, leaving behind a smattering of confusion and dread. What does it mean? All will be lost? I whispered, each syllable coated with a tremor of fear I couldn't suppress. Julian hung up, eyes wide with disquiet. I think it means we don't have much choice. We need to head to the pier immediately, but that woman, what if she can help us? She might hold answers, but we can't risk it. We have to stick to the plan. His voice was resolute, but I saw the flickering doubt within him. Julian, you said it might be a trap. What if this call is too? He stopped, sizing up my anxious expression. Sometimes risks are necessary, even if they feel like walking on a tightrope over an abyss. I can't lose you, Mia. The raw intensity in his eyes steadied my racing heart, intertwining our fears into something stronger. I nodded, surrendering to the gravity of the situation. We couldn't linger, not now. Not when danger felt so close. We navigated down the stairwell, shadows wrapping around us as we headed to the exit. Each step reverberated with the promise of another encounter, another snare looming just beyond. Through the door, the air shifted sharper, laden with the crisp scent of impending rain. Thunder growled in the distance, signaling the encroaching storm, a fitting metaphor for the tempest between us. Let's hurry, Julian urged, pulling me into the night. As he led us through dimly lit streets, it was as if time expanded, a stark contrast to the clock ticking ominously in my mind. With darkness closing in, each corner we turned felt like facing another unknown, but the shadows holding our past were impossible to escape. The image of Darian lingered, demanding confrontation, and the haunting familiarity of that woman buzzed like a relentless bee in the back of my mind. A downpour began as we neared the waterfront, each droplet a reminder of the urgency sweeping us toward the edge of discovery. In an abandoned boat lot, encased in fog that clung desperately to the docks, we could see the jagged outline of the pier emerging like the ribs of a slumbering beast. Over there, Julian pointed, his breath leaving him in quickened bursts as we approached. The wooden slats creaked ominously beneath our feet, echoing our unsteady hearts. Each step forward felt like a tethered leap into uncertainty, the past reverberating painfully against every surface around us. As Julian squinted into the gloom, I caught sight of a flickering light at the far end of the pier. A lantern, or perhaps something more ominous. The realization sent my hand instinctively tightening around his. What if this is a trap? I echoed my earlier fears, but Julian merely met my gaze, his determination holding me steady as much as the promise of safety flickered beyond. That we have to go. But just then, a figure emerged from the mist. I froze, heart slamming against my ribs. The woman from earlier stepped into view, her features illuminated by the soft glow of the lantern. Mia, she breathed, her voice barely cutting through the rain-soaked air. You have to listen. There's more at stake than you realize. You must trust me. Julian's grip around my hand tightened defensively as he instinctively placed himself between the woman and me. Stay back. His words rang out firm, but there was an uncertainty in his stance. I want to help you, she continued, desperation seeping through the tension. But you're running out of time. The truth about everything you've been caught in, it's all tied to the suitcase. My heart lurched, the mention of the suitcase feeling like a slap. What do you mean? Julian, she said, her eyes pleading. You're both right in thinking you're being hunted. But there's more to this than survival. There's a choice that must be an impossible one. Before either of us could respond, a sharp echo sliced through the air. A fast-moving vehicle screeched to a halt behind us, flashing headlights illuminating the fog like a beacon of doom. Julian, we need to run, I urged, shifting instinctively closer to him, fear sparking in the pit of my stomach. A whirlwind of emotions battling for control coursed through Julian as he turned to face me, a myriad of choices apparent between us. But just as I was about to plead for us to flee, the woman stepped forward. Mia. Please. You must. Her words trailed into the swirl of chaos, swallowed by the urgency of the moment as figures began to emerge from the car. With our backs against the wall, our eyes locked, and the dark urgency of the storm threatening to consume us. Whatever we had left slipped away as I prepared for a confrontation that would forever change the trajectory of our lives. Just before the dark figures swarmed toward us, a final revelation clattered against the uncertainty that encased us. I had known my past would catch up with me, but as I wrestled with the truth that stared back at me from the depths of the shadows, I could only pray that we wouldn't be crushed under the weight of what was about to unfold. The shadows morphed into menacing silhouettes as the figures advanced. I could hear the rain pounding like a war drum, an unsettling rhythm matching the heightened pulse in my neck. Julian stepped closer to me, his body radiating a fierce protectiveness, but even he felt the tremor of uncertainty ripple through the air. "Mia," he whispered, his eyes darting to the approaching figures, "whatever happens, stay behind me." The woman's gaze shifted between us and the encroaching threat, her face a mask of anxiety. "You don't understand. They will take you both if you don't move now." It felt like minutes wrapped in seconds as Julian wrestled with the decision before him. I wanted to scream for him to run, but the weight of the mystery held me captive. What did she mean by the suitcase? Did it hold clues to our entangled fates? The lifeline of answers felt odorless yet tangible, and I could barely breathe through the thick tension that surrounded us. "Trust her, Julian," I implored, desperation spreading like wildfire in my chest. "She knows something we don't." His resolve flickered, uncertainty morphing his protective glare towards something resembling hope. But just then, a voice shouted, slicing through the rain-soaked air. "Get them. Now." Suddenly, everything erupted into chaotic motion. The figures lunged forward, and instinct kicked in. I yanked on Julian's arm, pulling him toward the edge of the pier. "We have to run." But the woman grabbed my wrist, her touch urgent and desperate. "No. You need to listen." Torn between the impending danger and her plea, I hesitated, and that split second cost me. A hand clamped onto my shoulder, yanking me back. The grip was cold and unyielding, and I twisted violently, trying to break free while Julian's fierce cry of my name echoed in the chaos. "Mia." He yelled, reaching out, but the figures were swarming now, shadows fulfilling their ominous promises. "It's okay." The woman shouted, her voice filled with an intensity one couldn't comprehend. "You have to choose. The suitcase. If you let them take it, it will mean your end." "What suitcase?" The storm raged in my mind, tossing around shards of anxiety and confusion. Then it struck me with a fierce clarity, the one I had accidentally taken from the airport. The one I had shoved into Julian's hands during our brief encounter. "Julian." "The suitcase." I gasped, my voice barely escaping my lips. He looked as if he had seen a ghost, the pieces falling into place in those fierce blue depths. "No, not that one," he whispered, but it was too late. The intensity of that moment forced the atmosphere to shift. "Drop her." A voice thundered, but I couldn't discern whether it belonged to an ally or enemy. In a sudden burst of strength, Julian lunged forward, shoving a would-be captor aside as he reached for me. I felt his hands grasp mine, steady and warm despite the chaos swirling around us, and I held onto him tightly, needing to believe that together we could overcome whatever darkness lay ahead. "That we can't lose the suitcase," I screamed, adrenaline pulsing through my veins as we faced the relentless figures. "They're desperate for it, I know," he replied, pulling me ever closer, his breath warm against my ear. "We have to find it. It might be our only chance." Suddenly, the woman yanked at my arm, pointing down the pier. "There's an exit. You can still escape. Please believe me." But as she spoke, the flashing lights of the vehicle reflected back through the fog like a twisted nightmare come alive. I racked my brain. Could I trust her? In this maelstrom of deception and danger, was she truly on our side? "Julian," I cried, panic ripping through me as one of the shadows reached for me again. But just as he spaced a step closer, to shield me from harm, the woman grabbed the front of my shirt, pulling me down closely, her eyes blazing with a fervor I had yet to see. "You have to take the suitcase, Mia," she implored, her voice trembling yet compelling, fueled by a passion that demanded attention. "Only it contains the key to your future." "The key?" I echoed, overwhelmed by her intensity as sharp contrast wrapped itself around the impending peril. "Everything will change if you let it be discovered." You're stronger than you realize. Trust yourself. As panic enveloped me, a sudden commotion drew my attention. The urgency escalated, voices being raised, the shadows closing on our surface, and an instinctual push propelled me toward the end of the pier. The world around me became a blur of motion, a confusion of voices intertwining with the relentless thrum of the storm. Run! Julian shouted, ripping me away from the chaotic pull of the woman's grip. In that electric moment, with my heart pounding in my ears, I felt both fear and exhilaration colliding. Julian and I surged forward, desperate for freedom, as the rain whipped through the air, rushing against us as if the universe itself conspired with the storm. But just as we reached the final stretch leading to the other side, a voice, one that was familiar yet dissonant, called out, halting my breath. Mia, did you really think you could escape? I turned, eyes widening as a dark figure emerged from the shadows, one I had wished to leave behind but would now be forced to face. As recognition flooded me, along with the horror of what lay ahead, I knew this was no mere coincidence. Darian? I whispered, the name leaving my lips like a spell, heart racing as the reality of our situation spun dangerously fast. Julian shifted, positioning himself protectively in front of me, even as the tumult of questions wound tighter around our fates. The storm raged on, both around us and deep within, leaving me grappling with answers that could change everything. Together or apart, we're all bound by the choices we make, Darian said, his shadow eclipsing the fleeting light. And with those ominous words, we were thrust deeper into the tangled web of our histories, the storm of inevitability crashing down as we faced not only our fears but a truth that bared teeth sharper than the thunder rumbling in the night. I stood at the edge of the pier, drenched and trembling as the rain poured down, blurring everything around me. Julian's fierce protection enveloped me, but the reality of our situation was settling in like a heavy shroud. Darian stood there, a figure cloaked in mysteries, every ounce of my being screaming for answers, for clarity amidst the chaos. Did you really think you could escape? Darian's voice was silk-laced with steel, each word pulling me further into the shadows that danced between us. My heart raced as Julian's grip tightened. You're not taking her, he declared, his voice carrying the weight of 1,000 unsaid fears. But I'm not the one you need to worry about, Julian, Darian replied, amusement flickering in his eyes. You're in deeper waters than you realize. Every choice you both make tonight has consequences. Stop playing games. I shouted, the surge of defiance rising within me, cutting through the fog of confusion. What do you want from me? From us? Darian stepped closer, the chaos swirling around us as the rain lashed relentlessly. It's not what I want, Mia. It's what you already possess. His words pierced through the thick air, igniting a flicker of something deep inside me, a long-buried truth yearning for acknowledgement. What are you talking about? I asked, every ounce of uncertainty reflected in my voice. The suitcase. He gestured toward the shadows gathering at the end of the pier, the figures advancing like dark harbingers of fate. It's not merely a physical object, it's the key to your past and your choice to reshape the future. Those hunting you, they want what's within. A frisson of clarity hid a spark igniting forgotten memories, the essence of who I had been before this storm forced me adrift. My fingers tightened around the edge of the suitcase, now caked with mud but still gleaming faintly under the desperate light. Inside it I hesitated, the fragmented pieces of truth crashing and shattering around me. There are secrets, isn't there? Darian nodded, the storm reflecting in his eyes, an unsettling blend of recognition and malevolence. It's a treasure, but it comes with risks. You were never meant to find it, but now that you have, you must decide whether to keep running or to grasp at what it offers, a chance to rewrite destinies. My mind swirled as I glanced up at Julian, seeking strength in those fierce blue depths that I had once deemed a compass, always guiding me through uncharted waters. Together, we stood teetering on the brink of an inscrutable decision. What do you think? I whispered, hoping our connection would cut through the impending storm. Is risking everything worth the price? Life has always been about risks, it's how we claim our power. His hand rested on my back, a solid warmth against the chill. And if this suitcase contains the truth has the potential to set you free. My heart raced as realization washed over me. He was right. We'd been chasing shadows, but a deep-rooted instinct urged me forward. Darian, if you want it, you'll have to face us. My voice held strength I didn't know I possessed, shaking off the grip of fear and uncertainty that had anchored me. Darian's eyes shimmered, surprised by the resurgence of defiant tenacity, and just as suddenly, a darkness coiled around his features. You can't fight what you don't fully understand, Mia. That I don't fear the unknown anymore, I shot back, breathing easier as clarity coursed through my veins, mixing with the adrenaline of the storm. All I fear is standing still while the world passes me by. The figures were closer, their silhouettes merging with the shadows and rain, but Julian stepped closer, grounding me as he prepared to fight. Whatever happens, we face this together. A moment passed, electric in its intensity. Doubt was finally giving way to something raw and unfiltered. The palpable bond forged through all our trials, tribulations, and shared journeys filled the air. Courage radiated from both of us, rising to meet the encroaching darkness. Let's do this. With that, the tide shifted. As I held my breath, an unexpected roar of determination surged through me. I reached for the suitcase, feeling its weight settle in my hands, potentially holding the power to unravel the chaos surrounding us or to bring shattering devastation. Darian looked startled, his expression shifting rapidly. What are you? And that's when I opened the suitcase, the very moment I grasped my destiny. Light spilled from within, swirling around us, blinding and transformative. The figures faltered, shadows fading against the brilliance radiating from my hands like an ethereal beacon made of hope and strength. Julian held the light like a shield, his presence bolstering me, grounding me in unwavering faith as the overwhelming chaos around us began to reform a tapestry of uncharted possibilities draped before us. Suddenly, the ominous shadows retreated, shrieking into the night, as if the very light I held had banished the darkness lurking at the edges of our lives. This is a mistake," Darian shouted, his bravado faltering in the face of our unity. With a surge of newfound power, determination coursed through me, no longer just a fragment of a life stolen from me but a master of my own fate. I stepped forward, confronting the figure of my past with unwavering defiance. No mistake, Darian. Only a choice, the choice to stand for my own truth without being bound by the shadows of the past. As the winds whipped around us, I could feel the relentless pull of fate converging, drawing everything and everyone toward an unforeseen resolution. The turn of tides, a chance of redemption hung in the air. And in that moment, I understood this journey had never just been about a suitcase or a chase. It had always been about reclaiming the fragments of myself I had forgotten, stepping into my own light and owning my narrative. With my heart full of fierce resolve, I turned to Julian, his eyes lighting up with a blend of admiration and trust that bound us eternally together. Together, I affirmed as he nodded, knowing we would forge our path, hand in hand, whatever awaited us in the face of this brave new dawn. And as the storm dissipated into the night, light and shadow coalesced into a promise. A moment crystallized into me, a reminder that we were not just victims of circumstance but the architects of our destinies. Perhaps the greatest treasure of all was the realization that even in the depths of despair, the light of hope could pierce through, illuminating the way forward, a newfound strength that would forever guide us. In the end, love and courage rendered even the darkest night into dawn, and I smiled, knowing that whatever came next, we would face it together, hand in hand, hearts ablaze with the certainty that we had finally discovered the real treasure, the power of choice and the unyielding strength of our bond. Together, always, I whispered, my voice steady against the backdrop of possibility, ready to embrace whatever awaited us.